Now, yesterday, the entire world was watching as Barack Obama was sworn in as the 44th president. And today, in The Loop, we're going in depth on the technology behind this historic day and how President Obama might actually create government 2.0. Joining me from San Francisco to help make sense of it all, a Wired contributing editor whose story, The Wired Presidency, appears in the magazine's February issue. Evan Ratliff is here. Welcome to The Loop, Evan. How are you?
Thanks. I'm doing well.
Good, good. Is anybody surprised? I mean, Obama really, his campaign made such a huge deal out of the internet during their campaign. Is there any surprise that they set video streaming records yesterday?
No, I wouldn't say there's any surprise. They certainly delivered a lot of information via the internet, via the web during the campaign. And then you have just generally people are getting more information online, their news, their political news especially.
Right.
And then on top of all that, it actually happened during the workday. So then you have people cutting out of work essentially to sit at their desks and watch the inauguration. So the combination of those three things was enough to pretty much overwhelm any records that had been set before.
Yeah, people popped open a new tab, watched the address, then went back to their fantasy football during the workday, right?
Yeah, exactly.
But how has, Obama's been doing these YouTube addresses. How have those been performing? Because I know when they first came on the scene, there were millions of views, but now, Sexy Phil seems to be getting more views than Obama talking about the economy.
Well, they did really well initially. It was so novel. When he did his first weekly address right after the election, it got over 1 million views, and people were just so excited to be able to watch it on YouTube. But then it started dropping off, and it got down to 500,000. And then the later ones were sort of 100,000 to 500,000, which is significantly less than the highest rated watched videos on YouTube in an average week. And I think people just their appetite for the campaign was so great that once the campaign was over, they were still really excited about Obama, and then they sort of lost interest as things got more specific. They got more policy-oriented, and a lot of people just aren't as interested in watching those videos. But they'll probably ramp up again now that he's actually in office.
He's actually there. Is that something that his as president he's going to continue to do? Do we know if he'll keep creating those YouTube addresses?
My understanding is that he will, that it's basically a substitute for the weekly radio address, or it's in addition to the weekly radio address that the president's done for many years.
Right.
And instead they're going to do it as this sort of, vlog on YouTube.
Well, one of the most powerful aspects of YouTube or anything online and social is the fact that people can make comments. They can contribute to the discussion at hand. Yet on those addresses, and look, I understand why. I mean, we know the YouTube comment leaving audience at times can be a little rough. Maybe you want to disable them, but do you think that they'll enable comments in the near future, or will that just simply be a one-way medium of communication for Obama?
Well, I think that they will probably enable comments. When they first released the YouTube videos, they didn't have comments, and they got some flack from that from the very sort of tech-oriented people saying, well, this is a one-way conversation. And then eventually they did enable the comments, and then you could sort of see the type of discussion that happened. I mean, if you could really call it a discussion, it was sort of typical YouTube comments like,
right.
Obama looks hot in high def and things like that.
Exactly.
And so they probably will allow that when they have the other YouTube addresses. It seems like they've set that precedent, but at the same time, that doesn't necessarily mean it's a two-way conversation. It doesn't mean that they're actually reading the comments or sort of discerning some public opinion from them. But my guess is they probably will allow them because they seem to have done that before.
All right. Well, Evan, how does Twitter factor into everything? Because, I mean, yesterday, Twitter and Facebook, they both saw a big spike. And yet the Obama Twitter account, which was, it was a great source for fundraising and awareness for a while, but it's been really quiet since the election.
It has. Well, they had the Barack Obama tweet account, and they were really good at using that to sort of get out information about where Obama was going to be, point people to web resources, get them to give money.
Right. Let us know that he likes his
election,
burger well done for lunch, and really, really important critical updates.
Right. All of the key information that you get via Twitter. But it went dark right after the election. It actually, they posted a couple of things right before the inauguration, telling people to go do service on Martin Luther King Jr.'s birthday and things like that. And so it seems like they do have a whitehouse.gov Twitter account. They've started that up. Mm-hmm. It seems like they will go back to Twitter and they will be using it.
Well, real quick,
there's some question. Yeah.
Evan, with regard to that, I mean, I know change.gov was a huge thing for them. They launched that. How are they connecting with that online audience? I know that they put up some polls on there, but what were those polls, and how are they actually interacting using the internet right now?
Well, they had a couple of ways. One was they had questions that you could submit questions and people could vote on those questions, and then they would have some of the staff members, either the press secretary or other people on the transition staff, would answer those questions.
What are we voting on? Like what his ringtone should be, or what glitter graphics he should use on his Facebook?
There was everything from what kind of dogs they should get up to more specific sort of policy proposals. And then there was another aspect which is called briefing book, where they had just issues that you could sort of put up an issue and then people would vote on it, and then they said the top issues would be put in a briefing book, and that briefing book would end up on Obama's desk for him to look at.
And real quick, because we're totally out of time, but what won? What's the number one issue according to the internets?
The number one issue according to the internet was that we should legalize marijuana.
Oh, that doesn't surprise me at all, actually. Slow clap for the internet. Evan, thank you so much for keeping us in the loop. And President Obama, I hope you take that very, very seriously, because the petition online stuff is getting old. Let's just do it already.